Good afternoon, and thank you very much, Professor Tony Richard, for actually inviting me to come and do this. I'm delighted to be here, so thank you. I'm going to talk to you about spotting the nucleus, and you are actually going to be interacting with me, but I'm not going to persecute anybody. The reason being that I'm going to show you a special part of the work that I do. I'll introduce it to you and you'll see why you're not going to be persecuted. You'll learn a little bit about basic tones because you can't spot anything unless you know what you're looking for. We'll try identifying a few of those tones, put them into some connected speech. Think about what we're doing when we use a nucleus, and that will lead on very nicely to Professor Wells's last session. And then I'll summarise what we've done, just in case I've left anybody behind. Right, so first of all then, let me introduce the materials. The materials are based on first 10 weeks of undergraduate teaching in my own university. And basically, they do a little bit of practical work each week in intonation. The last 10 minutes of their English workshop session is spent thinking about intonation, but we don't do any theory at that point. They don't do any theory at all until we get to the second part of the course. The students that I'm talking about here are a mix of native and non-native speakers of English, and sometimes I can have even more non-native speakers in a class than native speakers, because in London we have very mixed groups. We have students from all over the world, and many years I have several Japanese students even in one small group, so it's not at all uncommon to be teaching Japanese students even in London. Most of the people that I'm talking to and teaching are taking linguistics as part of their undergraduate degree, but a few people are just coming because they are interested, and they come as sort of occasional students, and they just take, say, my course or somebody else's course, just out of interest in that subject. Now, what we're going to look at, the first 2 weeks of what they do, we don't do any intonation at all as such. We spend the time getting used to listening to English and thinking about the stress and the rhythm. And intonation practice proper begins in week 3, so that's where we'll join it. And in week 3, we start learning a little bit about basic tones. The tools of the trade, I've called this bit. And first of all, I tell them a few words that I'm going to be using, because after all, this is very much like learning a new language, and they don't necessarily have the vocabulary to talk about the experiences that they're having. So I ask them the question, what is a nucleus? But this is a rhetorical question because they don't know the answer, but they're already getting a new term, the nucleus, and I tell them that it's a stressed syllable, that it's where the nuclear tone begins, could that be another new word, and that we underline it. You've already heard about underlining nuclei this morning. So the next question then is, what is a nuclear tone? And you can see here that there must be at least 3 stressed syllables, because there's 3 lots of underlining. It's wonderful arrow gone, right? So we're going to be listening here, and before I do anything else, I say to them, okay, now listen to these. And I'll say something like, possibly, possibly. And I'll simply say to them, what do you think is happening to the pitch of my voice in possibly? What's it doing? What's it doing? Is it going up, down, round the corner? Yes, I'm getting some very good semaphore from people. It's going down, isn't it? There's something falling going on there. Possibly. 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 What's it doing now? It's going up, isn't it? That's right. So I've got possibly, 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 possibly. Yes. So it's going down, up, possibly. That's right. So they've already started to do a little bit of work that they probably weren't expecting to do at all. And I will show them a marked up form of that. And I will tell them that the first one we call a fall, the second one we call a rise, and the third one we call a fall rise. And they'll notice that I've changed the way it looks, and the symbols are stress marks called tonetic stress marks. Okay? And you can see them there. So this is all pointed out to them, and they'll be scribbling away, taking down a few. Well, they might not actually, lots of them just sit there and then wish they had scribbled away. But they may be taking notes. And so then we move on, having given them a little bit of stuff to get cracking with, we move on and we take that, that's our starting point, those things that they've already analysed. And first of all, I'll say to them, okay, listen again, and imitate. So we'll try possibly.
Possibly.
Excellent. Once more, possibly.
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 Prima. Excellent. Now, once you've got the feel for those, you've got to do something with them. And I do this using sets of 5 items usually, and presenting people 5 versions of this. And I'm very mean, I only say them twice. All right, and then we look, because this is just experiencing the tones. So nobody minds very much if you're getting 1 or 2 wrong. People usually get at least 1 or 2 right, so the 1 or 2 wrong doesn't count too badly. So I'm going to go through this set, and you can jot down what's happening. You know now that you've got a fall, you've got a rise, and you've got a fall rise. And you're going to hear one or other of those tones down here. So I'll go through the set. Number 1. Don't call the answers out, just make a note. Number 1. Possibly. Possibly. Number 2. Possibly. Possibly. Number 3. Possibly. Possibly. Number 4. Possibly. Possibly. Number 5. Possibly. Possibly. And when we've done that, we'll look at the answers. And what we find surprisingly is that I've only used 2 of those tones. I've got 3 of my rising ones, and then 2 of those rather nice fancy ones that wriggle about, the fall rise. So people are already getting the measure of this. They can't automatically assume that they must have at least 1 of each, because I may be using just a selection. So hopefully everybody got 5 out of 5. I'm sure you're fine. I'm sure you're all with me on this one. We do another little exercise using now Saturday. Excellent. Saturday.
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 Bravo, that's wonderful, yes. So again, we go through the same routine. And number 1 this time is Saturday. Just make a note to yourselves of what's being said. Saturday. Number 2, Saturday. Saturday. Number 3, Saturday. Saturday. Number 4, Saturday. Saturday. Number 5, Saturday. Saturday. Okay, how many of the tunes did you have this time? All 3 of them. Yes, I'm getting again some hand signals from towards the back of the room. All 3 of them we had this time. And so when we look at the answers this time, we should expect to find a distribution of those tunes. And sure enough, we've got just that. We've got 3 of the falls, number 1, number 4, number 5. A rising tune in number 2, and a full rise in number 3. Hopefully we're getting 4 or 5 right. Any questions so far, or is everybody kind of with me? Kind of with me, yeah, good. Cautious nods. Okay. The next thing then, that's what we do in the first week, so in week 3. We move on to week 4, and we're getting used to using these tools, these simple intonation contours. And again, they will have done lots of other work before we get to this 10 minutes. They'll have been doing things like English dictations, like the one that you saw from Michael this morning, and so forth. So again, Monday, Monday, Monday. We've got the tunes there. Again, they're invited because they'll have forgotten them all. Remember how short the auditory memory is. They go out of my first class and they go on their way downstairs, and probably before they've even gone out through the door into the road, they've forgotten exactly what these tones sounded like. So auditory memory is very, very short. So again, I invite them to listen and imitate, and I have Monday,
Monday.
Monday,
Monday.
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 Excellent. And we go through the same routine again. It's probably a little bit boring to do too many of these, but that's very similar to some of the things that we've listened to before, so we won't necessarily need to listen to all of them now. They get the answers. And this week, week 4, they do just 2 of these exercises. Here's another one using probably, and they will do the imitation again, and then we'll do one more listen. Now we'll pick this one up, because this one will come back again later. Try probably. Jot down what you think I'm doing. Probably. Second one, probably. Probably. Number 3, probably. You're not very good at keeping quiet, are you? Especially writing the answers down, not saying them out loud. Number 3 again, probably. Probably. Shh. Number 4, probably. Probably. Yes, I can. It's very encouraging to see people actually doing semaphore back. It means I'm going the right way, and so are you. So one more. Probably. Probably. Okay. And this time we had fall on probably, and then a rise and another fall, and then 2 of the fall rises at the end. Now, the important thing, even at this stage, is to get people into the idea that some intonation groups, some utterances, if you want to think of each of these as a separate little utterance, is a bit longer than one word. And they have, as I said to you, been doing dictations and so forth. And one of the dictations has had this phrase in it. And so what I say to them now is, we're actually going to spot the nucleus in this, and we're going to listen for that falling tone, the one that we've just had on Monday, probably, Saturday. And the first thing that I will give them is, we prefer a Pepsi Cola. We prefer a Pepsi Cola. Where is it? On the first syllable of cola, that's right. And so they see what it would look like with a falling tone on the first syllable of cola. And then, we prefer a Pepsi Cola. We prefer a Pepsi Cola. Where's it gone? On the second syllable of prefer, that's right. So we'd see that. We prefer a Pepsi Cola. We prefer a Pepsi Cola. We'd, absolutely. And the last one I've got in this one is, we prefer a Pepsi Cola. We prefer a Pepsi Cola. It's on the Pepsi, isn't it? Not a Coca, but a Pepsi. Right, okay. So we prefer a Pepsi Cola. Oh, haven't put it up. Right. There we are. Sometimes I'm a bit sneaky at this point, and I tell them to do things like change the first one into a rise. So instead of having we prefer a Pepsi Cola, I make them do it just off the cuff with it going up. Can you do that? We prefer a Pepsi. Yes, some people did. Let's do it here once more. We prefer a Pepsi Cola. That's right, we prefer a Pepsi Cola. And it goes up, doesn't it? That's good. So again, they are interacting, they are using intonation, but nobody's picking on them, nobody's saying you've got to get this right. It's just being absorbing it and absorbing the way in which we mark it up. The next thing then is to take the actual testing bits a little bit further, and instead of having those isolated words all the time when you're listening and making the responses, to put those words into a context. So you're getting a bit expert now. And you'll notice that the instruction has changed. You're no longer going to just listen and then listen and imitate, but there are 3 versions. And perhaps you'd like to tell me what the first one sounds like. You read it? Soon, that's right. And what about the second one? Soon, excellent. And what about the third one? Brilliant, super, that's really good. The next thing then is to hear that as part of a longer phrase. Again, make sure you can decide which tune I'm using. And the first one is, it'll be ready soon. It'll be ready soon. Number 2, it'll be ready soon. It'll be ready soon. Number 3, it'll be ready soon. It'll be ready soon. Number 4, it'll be ready soon. It'll be ready soon. And number 5, it'll be ready soon. It'll be ready soon. And notice how good I am at keeping my head still, because students are watching you all the time to see if you're going soon. Soon. And the one thing you've got to do is make sure you're absolutely not giving anything away, that they've literally got to do it by listening to the tunes. So again, they get the answers. One complex fall rise at number 4, a couple of simple falling ones, the first and the last, and 2 rises, 2 and number 3. And then we get one that starts to begin some of the problems that we'll need to address. Can you read this? The name Joe. Can you read those? It's the first one. Okay, and the rise on Joe would be? And the fall rise? Joe? Yes, good, okay. Now, the slot for Joe to pop into has moved up a bit. It's nearer to the front of the group. So again, we listen very carefully, and we have number 1, give Joe some more. Give Joe some more. Number 2, give Joe some more. Give Joe some more. Number 3, give Joe some more. Give Joe some more. Number 4, Joe some more. Joe some more. Number 5, give Joe some more. Give Joe some more. Right, now then, when we get the answers to this, we find number 1, give Joe some more. It's the same as number 3, give Joe some more. It's the same as number 5, give Joe some more. Number 4 is usually not problematic, give Joe some more, with a nice simple rising tune in it. But number 2, people have great difficulty with, and I don't know, maybe you were spot on, maybe it wasn't a problem for you, but give Joe some more, with a fall rise, usually causes people a certain amount of problems, or a certain number of problems, a certain amount of difficulty. And so I say to them at this point, remember this is their 5th week, don't worry, we'll sort it out next week. And so they come back next week, probably having forgotten that they've got a problem, so they arrive in a very happy frame of mind, to discover that in week 6 we do a little bit of theory. So not a lot of theory, it's just theory that kind of patches in to the practice. And the theory is going to address the problem that we encountered in that example we've just looked at. And the first thing to do is to remind people that they have learnt 3 tones. And again, I invite them to read these, and usually by this week they're getting quite good at doing that, and so they read a nice fall on this first one, which will be That's right, yes, excellent. And the rise on the second one? Soon. Spot on. And the full rise, the offending full rise on the third one will be soon. That's right, yes. So that doesn't present a problem. However, the first thing that I tell them, and so I'm being very crafty here because I'm slipping in a little bit extra, is that the falling tone can either start from a highish pitch and go to a low one, or it can start from a low pitch and go to a lower one. So we have two different sorts of falling tone. And what we've got here is the one we've been practicing, soon. Soon. Let's hear it. And then soon. 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 Different, aren't they? But they're doing the same sort of job, approximately. Then, not content with that, I frighten them to death by telling them that the rising tune can either start right at the bottom and go up, soon, soon, or it can start higher up, soon, soon. And that's the one that starts to make them feel a bit conspicuous and uncomfortable because they don't think they do that at all. But of course, when you listen to English speakers, you know English speakers do that sometimes. And that's what makes, one of the things that makes the intonation so characteristic. So we've got this. And then I make them feel a bit better by telling them that the full rise for our present purposes goes from a highish pitch to a low pitch and back up to the middle somewhere. And you saw that happening too in Michael's class this morning. So we've got a high fall and a low fall, a high rise and a low rise, and a full rise. So we've expanded our inventory of tunes. You can see the high ones marked at the top of the printed line, and the low ones marked at the bottom of the printed line. So we've also expanded the image that they're going to look at. They're no longer seeing a single falling contour or a single rising contour, but we've factored out the starting points a little bit in the way in which we mark them up. I also tell them, I add another little bit of vocabulary to the list, another thing that they can talk about, that these new ways of presenting things are not just kind of transcriptions or markups like the ones that they've looked at, but we call them interlinear representations. Representations between two lines. Top line is the top of my voice range, the highest pitch I'm ever likely to go to, as in, well, hello, come in, nice to see you, okay? I mean, I won't go much higher than that, but the bottom one is my normal, everyday low pitch. That's what I use. That's as low as I can go, and below that, I won't sound normal anymore. I'm going to be needing OJ's voice therapy, so once I've got that. Right. So, pursuing our little thing about theory, the nucleus that we've been spotting so far is the one obligatory component of an intonation group. So even when I say soon, or when you read soon, that's an intonation group. It's got one syllable in it for English ears, and that's the nucleus. Okay? The nucleus is where the nuclear tone starts. And if there are any syllables afterwards, and we spotted syllables afterwards in things like probably, okay, the little syllables afterwards are called the tail of the group. So, these tails are optional, but whatever the nuclear tone is, it's going to affect the pitch in the tail. So far then, we've got a very rudimentary looking intonation group. We've got a nucleus with an optional tail. And at this point, somebody says, but what about the things that come before the nucleus? And what I say to them is, well, that's for next term. We're not going to worry about that now. We know there are bits there, but we're not actually going to put names on it. We've got enough to deal with, dealing with the bit we're looking at. I give them some examples of these intonation groups. Again, picking up data that we've already used. Soon, an intonation group with no tail, just a nucleus. Monday, an intonation group with a very short tail. Probably an intonation group with a slightly longer tail. And we've said that the nuclear tones affect the pitch in the tail. So if I said to you something like, probably, Monday, what's happening in that syllable after the tail? Where is my voice now? It's low, isn't it? Yes. And in fact, these are examples of the low-level tail. And low-level tails always follow falling tones. In fact, they follow any kind of falling tone. I think falling is a good thing here, because you know when you fall and you actually hit the ground, you can't go any lower, can you? You go straight there. And intonation sort of complies with this same gravitational rule. You fall to the bottom and you stay there. So once you've got down low, once you've had a falling contour, you stay at the bottom, so a low-level tail. And we have a look at a couple of those with interlinear representations. And you can see that it doesn't matter where we start, whether we've got a high fall or a low fall. And some students can't see the difference between those two, but if you join them up with a line, you can see that one nucleus starts lower than the other nucleus. Yeah? But wherever you start, what comes after it is one of these low-level tails. We can look at that again on probably. Again, it doesn't matter whether you start high or low. What comes afterwards is right down the bottom, and it stays there. Ooh, sorry. Now, if I said to you instead of those, something like, get the right words since I've already given the answer away, Monday, Monday, or Monday, Monday. What's happening now after the nucleus? Where's my voice going now? Monday. It is indeed, yes, that's right, it's going up. Excellent. And we can see that happening. It's a rising tail. We've got a low rise, Monday, and a high rise, Monday. And again, one starts higher than the other, and for the students that can't tell, we can demonstrate it by joining the spots up. But wherever you start, the next syllable is higher than the starting point, and that's what we call a rising tail. Now that's all very fine and dandy, isn't it? And we can see it goes straight up if we do that. If we put those out of the way for a moment, we'll find that there's actually more to it than this straight up movement. Let's just tuck them in the corner and have a look at one of those fancy ones. Monday, Monday. Now, a little bit different from Monday that we've just seen. Monday. It's still going up, but it's taking its time getting there. And so we've still got a rising tail, but it's a rising tail with a rather different shape. We're sort of waiting to rise. And I suppose we could say that we've actually got two kinds of rising tail. We've got a direct one that goes straight there, and one that can be a bit delayed. And that delay becomes much more obvious if we look at even longer tails. So there's the three tunes drawn out for you using the word probably. But we can see we've got straight up on the first two, the tail rising straight up there. But in probably, we're waiting until the last syllable. We've got a delay. And so we've got two rather different shapes to our rising tail. Now that accounts for the experiential problem that they had with if juice. Because we went down, we waited until we got to the appropriate point for the rise to begin. So that explains a little bit the sort of difficulty that they had, because you probably didn't see that come in because I was talking, that you have to keep listening right to the end of the intonation group in order to see whether you've got a rising tail or not. If you've got a rising tail, then you must have had some kind of rising nuclear tone. There's the Joe one. And you can see that in the one that they got right, you chose some more, it's going straight up, one step after another. But in the one that caused problems, there is the delay. Now, that's all we do in week 6, because by that time they think they can't cope with intonation. So the next job, when they come back in week 7, is to go on and think a little bit about connected speech again. And the first thing that we've got is we've got some more nuclear tones. So I've put in an extra one. I wonder if you can cope with that. The first one is gone. The second is gone. Then gone and gone. Can you read them? What about the first one? Gone. That's right. That's just like you're answering me. Then answer me again, but less enthusiastically. Gone. Good. Then gone and gone. That's right. Yes, good. We'll do some of those with the more tones in slightly longer contexts. I think you'll find it's gone twice, 3 times. Number 4 is, I think you'll find it's gone. And number 5, I think you'll find it's gone. Again, I haven't used everything that they've practiced because they've got to listen critically. It's no good just assuming that you can do it by process of elimination, because that's not how conversation and intonation works. Oops. Sorry, my fault, finger on the wrong button. We then do it with there. Can you read those? First one? There, yeah. Second one? There. Third one? Fourth one? There. That's right, good. There's some, there it is. So it's coming in the first slot this time, which means that they've got tails to listen to. So that adds a dimension of challenge. And again, you'll see I haven't used all the tones, just some of them, so the listening has to be selective. And then a monosyllabic one. Again, it's the same range of tunes. It's a different context, so there will be a tail, and one of the ones here is, I said it was me laughing. What's the nuclear tone in that? I said it was me laughing. Which nuclear tone have I picked? I said it was me laughing. Give me a name. Full rise, yes, absolutely. Not quite sure whereabouts that comes, but yeah, 4 and 5, they listen to that twice. Week 7, so we're progressing now towards Christmas. And in week 8, we do a little bit more of this sort of stuff. But we move on now, not to having 5 repetitions of the same word group, but to looking at a dialogue. And we'll do this, and I'll read it through to you, and you can see how these tones can then be made to interact in a piece of connected English. The first speaker says, we'll have to do it soon. We'll have to do it soon. But we needn't do it at all. We needn't do it at all. Did you promise them? Did you promise them? I didn't. I didn't. You did. You did. I didn't. I didn't. You did. You did. I didn't. I didn't. And then the speaker is now getting so desperate. You did. You did. All right, so the first was, we'll have to do it soon. And the nuclear tone is full rise, that's right. Have to do it soon. But we needn't do it at all. High fall, excellent. But you promised them. High fall again. Yes, the front row is doing all the work here. Has everybody else gone to sleep? But you promised them. And the speaker says, I didn't. Low rise, good. You did. Bit grumpy, you did. Low fall, yeah. I didn't. Argument starting, I didn't. Low fall again, that's right. You did. More insistent, yeah, I'm upping the stakes here, aren't I? You did. And again, the response, I didn't. More insistent again, high fall again, excellent. And you did is the one that you spotted immediately, the full rise. So you can even have an argument using just sort of 3 tunes is basically what it comes down to, 3 or 4 tunes. And yeah, that's what we spend our time doing in week 8. And we have another little bit of connected speech that comes along in week 9. Where now they start, I invite them to read all 5 tunes. So let's just refresh our memories, make sure we're still good at them. What's the first one? Yes, absolutely. And the second one? No. Good. Yes, sound a bit grumpy. No. It's right down the bottom there. And then, no. No, good. And now make yourselves feel a bit embarrassed. No? No? That's right, it's right up there. No?
No.
Yeah. I don't feel embarrassed. No?
No.
And finally, yes. Okay, so, and you can see there, can't you? This is another thing that a native-speaking group, perhaps, would kind of tune into, because we often use that tune, yes, when we want to contradict somebody, but do it politely, not to fall out with them, not to say you're wrong, but yes. So there's been a lot of no going on, and now somebody's changed it. Yes, and they've done it nicely. So nobody minds. People react very nicely to that. They don't get cross. So another little dialogue coming up, and again we'll see that we can do all sorts of things with just this simple range of tones. And the first speaker says, when did you ring? When did you ring? What have you got for that? When did you ring? What do you reckon? Is it rising or falling? Yes, a low rise. Lady gave it to me there, thank you. So low rise. When did you ring? And the answer is Sunday. Sunday. Low rise again, isn't it? Now that's an interesting one, because that's a bit saying, you know, mind your own business. It's got a message, that tone, in that context. And the speaker says, sorry? Sorry? High rise, yes. And what the speaker is saying, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't, they're not saying I didn't mean to pry, they're saying I didn't hear you, if they use a low rise there. Got a sort of grumpy, when did you ring? Somebody. You know, stop asking me questions. And if the person was sensitive to that, they might have said, oh, sorry. But they don't say that. They say, sorry, I didn't catch you. So you have to repeat it. And that's the high rise. And so the speaker says, Sunday. Sunday. A high fall, that's right. You're very good at this, it's brilliant. And then, and you saw him when? And you saw him when? High rise, that's right, yeah. Tuesday. High fall, yes, that was a very quick response. And that's absolutely what it should be, because we use that as a kind of statement answer to things. And so you've only got to think about how you feel, how you're being responded to, or how you feel about responding. If you tune in to those attitudes, it helps a lot. And when's the next meeting? When's the next meeting? High fall again, excellent. Thursday? Thursday? Yeah, and that's challenging, isn't it? What do you make of that then? You know, I'm defying you, it's on Thursday, so just don't say any more. There's a lot going on in even simple little dialogues like this. And English speakers will use intonation very manipulatively in this way. So watch out when you're next talking to us. Okay, now that's very good, and a lot of the time we do spend actually listening to what people are saying and working from spoken text of this kind. But But the final thing, the final challenge, I suppose, is to actually think about what's happening and to be able to apply these experiences that you've had when you're sitting at home alone with a written text that you have to turn into something real. So the first thing that people ask when they're confronted with these texts is, well, so what is the nucleus? And it's no good saying to them, well, you know, it's those 5 tunes that you've just learnt, because that doesn't mean anything. And one of the things that it's useful to know is that the nucleus always moves the dialogue along. We don't stay in one place, and the nucleus doesn't stay in one place, because the nucleus, all the time, is getting your attention, the listener's attention. And it's not just doing that, it's making you understand what I want you to hear. You don't have any choice about the message that's being put across to you. So it gives you another insight into the manipulative qualities of intonation. So I give them a text, which is going to be a little dialogue. Somebody's just arrived in London, staying with a friend, they're having breakfast, and they're having a chat about what this visitor's going to do all day. Now, don't panic if you don't get all this down, because the first thing that I always recommend students to do when they're confronted with something like this is to strip out the punctuation and break it into its intonation groups. And so we end up with something like that. So it's now beginning to look more like the little dialogues that we've listened to. And each one of those becomes a much more manageable proposition. Now, if we had lots and lots of time, which we haven't, you could sit with your neighbour and decide where the nucleus is going to go. How are you going to say these things? Right? But perhaps what you would prefer is if we talk it through and see what's happening. Now this, remember, is the first time they've talked about this subject. Sitting there with the cornflakes and the coffee, and the first speaker says, any plans to go to the theatre? Where's the nucleus? It is, yes, it's on the first syllable of theatre. Whoops, sorry, there's an event popped in, ignore that. So, right. Any plans to go to the theatre then? Okay. Now it's all new information, so the nucleus is right up near the end. Any offers for where you think it's going to go in the next bit? Yes, I'm getting sort of mouthed responses. Which word with the volume turned up? Where will it go? I'd really like to go to the globe. Yes, it's going to go on the globe. The globe is for those who haven't been to London, the reconstruction of Shakespeare's original circular theatre on the south bank of the River Thames. And people often want to go there. So I think I'd like to go to the globe. And the person follows that up with a question about actually being able to go there. Where's the nucleus going to come in his question? Yes, it is. It's going to come on the first syllable, the stressed syllable of tickets, because again, it's all new information. And the response is that this isn't an easy thing to do. Where's the nucleus going to come in the first line of the response? Difficult, that's right. Again, all new. And telling you how to do it, it's going to come on order. That's very good, because we don't like emphasising pronouns and things in English. So, and we know we're talking about tickets. Them is just substituting now for tickets. So that's completely irrelevant to the message. And it's going to come on the first syllable of order them. And when do you have to do that? Yes, that was very well said. Where's the nucleus? That's our advance, that's right. So months in advance. Had a very quiet, perfect intonation tune, which gave us the nucleus on advance. Now, what about the next one? It's going to come on returns, that's right, because though is another one of those little kind of empty fillers. I don't have to put it in. I don't even need to say it. You might get some returns, I could say. But I just say you might get some returns there. And it's just one of those things that English people do. Where do they sell them? Box office, that's right. And that's one of those tricky words. You have to know that those compounds, it often comes at the beginning. First part. And when do they do it? Before the performance, that's right, half an hour before the performance. So again, you see, all this is new. Nobody's talked about this before, have they? And you can see by tracking through the bold syllables that the nucleus is always up near the end. What about the next bit? Some advice. Early, that's right. You better get there early. Why? It's bound to be a Q, absolutely. And so you can see again that it's still right up at the end. So that's quite interesting. And this is something I think John will be picking up in a minute. New stuff we keep up at the end. We're taking the speaker with us. We're moving the conversation on, giving more and more and more information. But when they come back in the evening, next week, and this is interesting because people do remember that, and that's how we work in intonation. We share stored information, stuff that we've already heard about. One thing English doesn't do is it doesn't repeat itself, it doesn't refocus on things. So one of the things that really sort of struck a chord with me in this respect was I was listening to a Teach Yourself Spanish course, and there was a question, can I have a bottle of water? Can I have a bottle of water? Where's the nucleus? Water, that's right. And the assistant comes up, this is all done in Spanish, here's a bottle of water. Okay, what? I would expect, here's a bottle of water, or here's one, because I'm English. So it really brought it home to me that we do something different from what happens in many other languages. So we don't refocus, we don't repeat ourselves. So now they're sitting here with their bedroom slippers on and their hot chocolate just before they get into bed. You know, it's the cocoa conversation, this one. The other one was the cornflakes conversation. Little insights into English culture. So they meet up again and have another little conversation. Now, what's the first speaker going to say? Where is the first speaker going to put the nucleus? How much of that is old, shared, that they know what they're talking about? Yeah, I've got one right answer. Let's have another one. Where's it going to go? Yes, and I can see some heads going up and down, and what I can also see from the lips is the right. Did you get your tickets for the Globe? Where is it? On Get, yes. And why is it on Get? Well, it's on Get for the very simple reason that all the rest is old information. I could equally have said, did you get them? Did you get them? Couldn't I? Because we would know what them applied to. It applies to the tickets for the Globe. So I don't even have to repeat that phrase. But if I do repeat it, I certainly don't give it a nucleus. The next one's easy, because we've only got one syllable to choose from, so it's bound to be no. And then what might happen? There are a number of different ways of doing this, but if we apply this little rule, where's it going to come in the next one? Right. Right, yes, you were right about the Q. And again, I don't have to repeat about the Q, you were right. I could stop there, couldn't I? And people would still know that everybody knows what the person was right about, because they've shared the information. It's part of their common experience. And the next one, the way it's written, is another little help, because obviously we've used bold italics to draw attention to, how would we say it? I am sorry, I heard from up here. Yes, that's right, good. Oh, I am sorry. So it would come there. I'm sorry, I seem to have bypassed the hopeless bit. What about the next bit? Yes, another, because we know we're talking about going to the theatre. Is there another theatre you'd like to go to? Another theatre you'd like to go to? It gets very high because it's got a very long rising tail. And what about the answer this time? Yes, I think somebody said it over there. Can somebody say it loud enough just so I know that I'm not imagining things? It's going to come on. Who Whoever said it was right? Vic, that's right. Yes, going to come on Vic, because it's now in contrast. I think that was John, wasn't it? Yes. Well, it's comforting to know you're good at it, isn't it, John?
I was encouraging you.
I don't need encouragement. I'm enjoying myself. Okay, so yeah, so that's new, and it's in contrast with globe, absolutely. So, you know, always wanted to go to the old Vic. And then, but I suppose those tickets are hard to get, and 2. That's one of the other things that we do. If we've got a 2, if we're being intense about something, we usually give it its own intonation group, its own nuclear tone, and it draws attention to just how sort of stressed you are about it or whatever. Okay, so that's the kind of stuff that we do. There's nothing for week 12, because in week 12 they have a class test on the rest of their materials. But that's what we do, building up to their first experience of intonation theory. And already then they're getting the idea of the nucleus being movable, because here you can see it moving backwards and forwards according to whether the information is new information or old information. So, in summary, they pick up quite a lot of rudimentary terminology, all right? All these words that you've heard me using, some of which you've seen emboldened in the slides, they go away thinking they can talk a little bit about intonation, which is very good. First-hand experience allows them to get some idea of the fact that the voice isn't monotonic and that it doesn't go up and down randomly, that there is some system to the melodic modulations of the voice, and that this links to the rhythmic beats, the stresses that they're getting in their ordinary English dictation, and we peg the tunes on, like lots of coat pegs on the wall. They've encountered 5 of the 7 nuclear tones that they'll learn eventually, and they've probably got quite good at least at the 3 basic shapes that we started with. And they've begun to understand the internal structure of the intonation group. So without feeling under any pressure, without knowing that they're going to be tested on it or anything, because they're not, they've taken on board loads of stuff that will make life much, much easier when they come on to doing the theory. Because if you can't hear the examples that somebody's giving you, you don't understand what the point of the examples is, or the point of the examples are. So I do find that for them to have this little bit of background and to have brought somewhere near to a kind of level of consciousness, something that they've been doing automatically and non-consciously right through their speaking lives, enhances the study of intonation at a later stage. And moreover, I think this is the biggest bonus, they report enjoying doing it. They like that bit of the session. So, I hope you've enjoyed it as well, and I'll let you practice your transcription reading skills. Thank you very much.